There you go. Done editing. Done dicky dun 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 dicky dun 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 dicky dun 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 dun. Okay, so we got that part out of the way. I think we're actually ready to go live. I'll just
Welcome to Blurcast! I'm Fuzzmond, and we are in the new studio. This space here, we're talking about Star Wars this week. Welcome to the newness of awesome.
This is not the podcast you're looking for.
This is the podcast you're looking for. It's the video cast you're looking for. It is us. We are phenomenal. To my right is our IT guy, CPU Rage Jockey.
Whoa, bro.
Exactly.
Me, Rage Quit Hero.
Rage Quit Hero, the CPU Jockey. To my left is the Angsty Bard.
Vengeful. I will get you back for this one day.
He will. He keeps saying that.
And I will.
In the far corner is Death Panda.
Hi.
Behind me, Princess Megatron. And then Connor the Blur.
You can all see my face!
And yes, as I mentioned, we are talking Star Wars this week. We are specifically focusing on the prequel movies and how the plot lines are going to tie into Episode 7, and kind of where our opinions on things lie. So let's
We have opinions.
first of all, let's start off with Jedi Sith. Who's on what side? Connor. Jedi or Sith?
Sith.
Sith? Fuck you. I'm Jedi. You're wrong.
Evil twin.
Difference of
I'm Sith
opinion.
as fuck, dude.
Sith is, well, of course you are. Look at the hood.
I'm the dick that goes gray.
Gray?
Gray.
Gray Jedi. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pulling out some of the new terminology.
Yeah, well, they've always been there in the background. Just now, people notice them.
This is true. This is one of the things that is coming to the forefront.
Yes.
Ladies,
Jedi.
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 But-
Samuel.
there we go.
Samuel L.
There we
Jackson,
go.
Specifically.
Purple
This is-
lightsaber.
yes.
Samuel L.
Yes.
Jackson. Yes.
Give me a pink one any day.
So like a week, like a really like.
No, this
you
is
were
like
a Sith,
flamboyant.
and then when you decided to be a gray Jedi, you're just like, all right, I'll just turn down the redness.
Yeah, just like tone it back. We'll add in some white. Like, see, now it's a light red. That's pink. Light red.
Lightish red. It's not pink.
It's a combination of white and red. It's completely manly.
I would go orange. I would go orange saber, definitely. So
Why?
it's
Why orange?
because it's a mix of red and yellow.
Hey, you know what? There are Sith cults that actually have black lights.
Yes, there is
lightsabers.
a black lightsaber.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
I mean,
What does that
that's
even look like?
it just looks
It
like you're
absorbs
staring into
light.
nothing.
It's
like glow.
Yeah.
Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, the video game. You can actually get a black lightsaber in that, and it literally just is black with like a whitish glow to kind of give off the fact that it's
A lightsaber.
well, and also Star Wars,
That
the
is
Clone
like-
Wars, the animated series. They have the Mandalorians. One of the Mandalorians wields. I don't remember exactly who the original owner was, but they wield an ancient lightsaber. Also has a black blade.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the few that's actually shaped like a blade too.
Yeah.
It looks like a katana.
That's cool.
Very cool, and it actually, you can see the devoid of light trail it leaves behind when it swings. So, like, as it slashes, you see the light filling
Instead
the
of
space.
a beam that
Yeah.
kind of waves, it's more of a shadow.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the deal with Darth Maul having the only lightsaber that's got two sticks?
Well, so Darth
No,
Maul
there's-
had the staff, double-ended lightsaber.
Saber staff,
Yeah.
thank you.
Which it is actually, there's been a lot of talk about how it's much less effective than the new announced tri-saber with the crossbeam that
Yes.
Kylo Ren has. And I think it makes a good point because if you're watching The Phantom Menace and you watch the fight scene, he's very he doesn't have a lot of intricate
short.
moves
It's
that
only-
he
it's
can
only
make.
about
He's
yay
very
long.
limited in the amount of tactical
Words.
assets.
Words.
Well,
I'm
and
trying-
like, well,
Like,
and
his fighting style is
His
severely
maneuverability is
limited.
He doesn't
Limited.
get as much reach.
Well, then he
Well,
can't
trying to
and
get
the,
at.
the other thing is that it's like he can't he has to hold it purely from the
true,
center.
yeah.
Right.
Gives him the least amount of leverage with his blows, and
Yeah.
on top of that, he can't chance a glancing blow going down the blade because I'm sorry, I like my fingers.
Yeah.
Like,
And
so-
that's where the crossbeam comes in, because that
Yes.
actually protects your hand.
I know, but doesn't that
watching-
seem just tropey as fuck, though?
Oh, it
like,
is tropey as fuck.
Like,
But
yeah, I mean, come
that's
on now.
like-
Like, new evil dude with lightsaber has to have it, like, all special.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Well, of
That's
course.
like the thing.
Well,
But-
considering the amount of people who have had their hands sliced off through this entire series,
Oh,
I think
I
someone
forgot that.
finally learned.
Yeah. What's his
Um,
face? Samuel L. Jackson got his hand cut off.
Yeah.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Oh.
In Revenge of the Sith.
Everyone gets their hands cut off. It is
Count
Star
Dooku got
Wars.
both of his hands cut off.
Yeah,
and then
I-
his head.
Yes.
Uh,
Anakin, obviously,
Anakin.
Luke.
both his hands. And his
you
legs.
know, Anakin kind of got fucked. Bad. I mean,
Anakin's like,
Anakin got both of his hands cut off
Well,
in different movies.
okay,
though.
so-
like one in a different movie.
Princess
He got-
Megatron and I just watched Revenge of the Sith today. And, like, it's a 2.5 hour movie, and literally for the first, like, hour and a half, like, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden Anakin gets put in this position between Senator Palpatine and the Jedi Council, and they're both kind of like pushing back and forth and like volleying for control over Anakin essentially, but without telling him.
Everybody wants
And so
him.
he's got all this pressure on him because he's got to be the chosen one and bring balance to the Force.
You were the chosen
But
one.
The Jedi
I
Council,
loved you.
the Jedi Council
Like
isn't
a
gonna make
brother.
him a master, but they're gonna let him be on the council as their relationship to the Senate. But then Palpatine's like,
bumping
"Oh,
the
but I know
Senate."
the mysteries of the Force, and I know how we could save Padme." And
oh my
I have
fuck.
to say though, the third movie was the most interesting one out of the three.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
definitely the best.
The second
yeah,
movie
well-
was so.
I disagree, except for the, or I
boring.
agree, except that last part, the actual battle on Geonosis with the clones.
yes.
That is by far one of the best.
But that's like the
battles
last
in
5
Star Wars.
minutes
I
of the movie.
disagree.
in all 6 Star Wars movies.
Because by the
That's one
time
of my
you
favorite
get there,
battles.
you're so tired of it that you're like, I
Yeah.
don't even care.
I
and
know,
there's,
'cause
and there's too much going on.
If you've seen the movie, so I saw all 3 of the
Episode
Star Wars,
2,
episodes 1, 2, and 3. I
Senate
saw them in the
debate.
theater. So I had already seen 2 at that point. So when I got it on DVD, I just fast forward through all the parts that involve Anakin being like, "Padme, I love you," and Padme being like, "I'm like 9 years
That
older than you."
defeats
and
the
yet
point.
Somehow we
You
look
have
the
to
same
suffer
age.
through
And
them.
like, yeah,
It's that Jedi
Don't forget
fucking...
all the romanticizing of sand.
so much
Oh
sand.
my god.
No, but
it's in everything.
the only thing I wish that they had been able to do was get to that final fight scene in Attack of the Clones sooner, specifically because I wish there had been a much more fleshed out fight between Windu and Jango.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
way they just instantly wipe out Jango
Yeah, just-
Fett. Just like, it's because you're at the end of the movie. There's not even time left.
No,
but
there's
like,
not.
if you imagine like even just a 3-minute, rather than just like the 30 seconds, but like a 3-minute quick fight of him using his full bounty hunter gear,
It was just like the whole part with.
and it's just purely to set up Boba. That's all it is.
really-
It's
yeah.
just so
Yeah.
that way all the head falls at Boba's
the
feet.
whole thing with Obi-Wan,
Blah, 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 blah.
like, you know, doing this reconnaissance mission and all that shit. Boring. Stupid. Like,
Actually,
it wasn't,
Well,
no,
Jedis are
wait.
kind of boring. You know? That's the
I will
thing,
say
like-
this
Right,
though,
right.
Obi-Wan doing
Right.
that. If you watch the Clone Wars animated series, like all the way through, Obi-Wan becomes like you see him use his full like he's incredibly intelligent,
Yeah.
very stealthy. Like
Well, he was
his-
a general,
Sexy
like,
as
essentially.
shit.
Also, just I'm saying this now. The Clone Wars animated series really brings to life the characters
Oh, yeah.
from the movies.
Yeah, but
And
Anakin ends up
it really
becoming like
helped-
Goku in that shit, like where he's like the idiot savant. And he's
Yeah.
just like going around like, I'm a Jedi Knight and the Force is strong. Like, you know, like it
I
really
think-
paints
but-
a different picture because you get to see the storyline of Kenobi becoming the general and like, you know, the master, you know.
Yeah.
Well, they're both generals, actually, in that.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it is General Skywalker.
Yeah.
Although, but you see how their personalities differ though, because Anakin always rushes right in, immediately gets into trouble. causes issues for other people.
But
But
getting his Padawan
but-
almost killed every time he turns around.
Yep, but at the
Ahsoka.
same time, his ability in a tough situation like that to come out on top is what also shines through. That he is an on-his-feet thinker, but Obi-Wan shines bright as day, just like I can plan
He's
things.
a chess master.
He has won the fight once the fight has started.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't engage until he already knows he's won. And
Yeah.
I feel like they're dynamic, not to mention Cody and Rex. Cody and Rex bringing life to the clones
Oh,
in that
absolutely.
series
I love. Okay,
made it so good.
I do want to like
Those two out of most
like,
of them,
to
but
talk
also
about the clones.
Fives.
Fives.
The whole squad, like the whole
Or not.
episode that deals with
Connor
the
We'll,
clones
we'll,
and
wants to talk
troopers.
we'll
about
get back
clones.
to you. Yeah, no. We'll get to you
The
just
whole-
as soon as he gushes over the clones a bit.
There's an entire episode that's devoted to the Clone Academy and
Yeah.
a platoon that specifically trains together, and they're deemed unworthy and that they should just
Yeah.
be culled from the army
Yeah.
and just be made maintenance.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more.
And then they're like, no, we can actually come together and work as a unit, and that teamwork survives the day.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit cheesy because each of the it's a Disney show made for kids essentially.
Yeah, but it's also
so they do have to throw in like a
A
there's
moral.
a moral to
Yeah.
this.
But they ran in. It's
And I'm
also
just like,
it's,
fuck it, give me
all the episodes
lightsaber
get
battles.
It's nice because the clones that are in that episode that are the focus are clones you've already seen. So
Yeah.
you know that some of them aren't alive at this point, and
Yeah.
but it's really good to see because when you see them in the show, they're some of the most important clones in the series, and it's like, and these are the unworthy ones that become the best. Now, what were you saying on the clones?
So a couple
there.
of things. I really liked a lot of the video games that involved the clones, such as Star Wars. Oh crap!
Battlefront?
No, it's not Battlefront.
Republic Commando?
Republic Commando.
Fixer, Scorch, Sev, and
And,
what's your name again that you play? You're the squad leader.
Yeah, I don't remember what your actual character's name is, but it's really cool.
yes.
That game, they went through a lot of in-depth, like just from the actual tactical movements of the characters to the in-depth story of, they kind of give you that idea of, you can see yourself growing up. You start off like, just kind of floating as a test tube baby. And then they show you as, like, a kid,
explaining
like, walking
your
around, like, doing
potential.
training. Yeah, and then like when you're actually on the Battle of Geonosis, like running
Yeah.
around, that's your first mission is running around doing like all squad tactics.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool to see that, and the clones are a really interesting.
Outsider.
They're a really interesting aspect of the Star Wars universe because all the stormtroopers are kind of regular
my
people that have
purple
enlisted
drink.
because it's so far.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
a lot
because
of those
they've no
clones are
longer been
ugly.
able to clone
Yeah,
Jango Fett anymore because his DNA is gone.
Yeah, a lot of the clones were destroyed or they died.
Well, wait a minute.
So-
That begs the question. So in the new Star Wars movie,
So yeah, in the new one,
is
clone
that
a clone.
dude a clone?
stormtroopers are not clone troopers.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
they are not.
Stormtroopers, starting in episode 5, are no longer clone troopers. They're just people who have been recruited
Oh, so-
from the
What
Empire
actually
to
Bat-
fight in the war.
Battlefront 2 actually explains this in one single sentence, but it answers everything for as to why there's so much difference between the clones and the stormtroopers. The remaining clones from the Clone Wars were all on the Death Star. It was the 501st Legion. They were all
shit.
stationed on the Death Star with Vader. It had the best defenses. If it had been invaded, like if they had tried to land on the Death Star, they would not have won. They would have been against those heavily trained Marines that all knew what they were doing, had the training.
Not your
had the
standard
knowledge.
dirt trooper.
But sadly, one guy who doesn't need to use technology to manage to land a shot that nobody else has been able to do and been blown up the entire way because he has the Force. Yes, I know. He's kind of the main character. I know.
About the same
But-
size as swamp rats.
Yes. Oh, thank goodness I used to blast them when I was back on my home planet.
Lots of sand.
You
More
while
sand.
We got
while
some
driving
sand.
my
Yeah,
pod
so
racer
that-
around.
that's why all the clones are gone because they were stationed on the Death Star when it was destroyed
That's a
by
cool
the rebels.
idea. Although by that point, okay, now here's the thing that I never actually paid attention to with Star Wars. Do the clones actually age like?
They
they
age, so
continually age, or
they
was
are
there like a
aggressively aged to adult age to their
And then
ideal
were they given,
age
like,
for
a hormone
fighting,
treatment to,
and
like,
then
stop
they
that
just
growth?
regularly age from that point. They're accelerated to adulthood where they're fully
So,
Marines,
Wouldn't that
and
make
then they
like,
just
the entirety
regularly
of the
age.
501st
Unless-
like, pushing 50 at that point?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because
They
okay,
would
so
be.
if they're
They would
like
be.
military age, that means they would be the age of around 18 or 19 or so. But by
Yeah.
the time that you start episode
5.
4,
Episode 5, A
okay,
New Hope.
But no, in episode 4,
Or,
by
right,
that
4,
point,
New Hope.
Luke Skywalker is 21 years old.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, they
It's
would
been
be-
about 20
and
years.
then- yeah.
So they'd be about 40.
No, but
also,
yeah.
depending, and they also don't explain the gap from when they start in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So you
to
get
the
40,
continuation
45.
of clones.
Yeah,
but
pushing
also
50.
how many years did it take? Like, you know, it was a couple of
Yes,
years.
but also
between
remember,
the Battle of Geonosis to
Jango
when
Fett
Anakin had a hissy fit.
Jango Fett isn't human though. He's Mandalorian.
Right.
Which they are while they are humanoid, they
They're
are
subhuman.
a different species. I don't know the exact specifics for them, but different
how
None of them are
lifespans,
Force
different
users.
health.
Yeah.
And besides, even if you think just regular soldiers nowadays in real life, there are plenty of adult males
Experience
that are
is
and
just as important
yeah,
Well,
militarily.
that have survived
Affect how
and
they
been
shoot,
fighting.
so.
Yeah.
You know, in the
Oh, yeah,
military.
they were, like,
So
up there, so
I would
it makes sense,
definitely
but I'm
say
just
that.
saying, like,
yeah,
all
no.
of those clones, like they're
Well,
like,
and some of them
all really
became
pushing their age.
individuals. There were a
Yeah.
couple
There
clones
was
that
there's an episode where there
where
was
he has
a
a family.
defector.
Yep, he has a
Yeah.
family.
There's also 99, and he was
Yeah.
a defective clone, not
Yes.
a defector, but
Yes.
the genetic code broke down when they were building
Yep.
his test tube baby, and so he actually continued to age at an accelerated rate.
Yes.
And also was hunched and
Yeah.
deformed, and
All right, sorry.
couldn't perform
yeah,
as
you're
well.
thinking of the defector that's earlier on. I'm thinking of the guy that is they find him on the crashed planet when they're all chasing Grievous.
Right.
And that's the one who he just literally he's AWOL.
I forget his
and-
name. He actually takes
yeah,
his own name.
he uses his regular name. He does not say his number, I don't believe, until
No.
the very end. I think he says it once.
Yeah.
And he has a family. He has 2 kids.
Yeah.
And they are his kids. So
Yeah.
No,
not
it goes to show
not
that
Mandalorian either. Like he crossbreeds with another
Well, yeah, no,
species.
it's a.
Which
I
brings
think
to
he has
question-
a Twi'lek wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
you got to
how
remember,
do you-
like the like in Star Wars, right? Like they're humans, but then there's different subgroups of humans. Like the Mandalorians are part of that subgroup,
Right.
but what separates them from regular humans?
As the majority of their race has lived on Mandalore, and
Well, yeah, that, and they have a tribal society. None of them are force sensitive,
Yeah.
except
Yep.
for a very, very, very 0.00001% of their population
Yep.
has ever been force sensitive.
And
Well, they-
and
they-
well,
they
and they're
combat a
experts
lot of-
in Jedi killing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they train.
That's what
the
they
Viper
fucking
swords
beat
like
their
that,
sticks
like
to.
they
and
had
shit,
the-
yeah.
That's what they explain in
They
Knights
had
of the Old
weaponry that
Republic,
could fight
the
a
Mandalorian
lightsaber
War.
without being sliced in half. The vibra swords or whatever. They
Yeah,
call
no,
them.
and they actually
And the
one
armor
of those
too is
swords is
resistant.
showcased for like the legendary swords of Star Wars because it's like this guy took a vibro sword and crossed blades with a Jedi and won, and it was
Yeah.
just like it's solid. It's not steel, obviously, but it was metal against a lightsaber, and this guy went toe to toe with a Jedi with none of the Jedi training because his was better.
Yep.
Like, and it just goes to show that Jedi are incredible, Sith are incredible. There are equally just as incredible races out there that don't even need the Force to be able to battle them.
Yeah.
Who was it? One of the characters you get in Knights of the Old Republic 2 says that he used the Jedi's code and tricks to kill them. Like, you
Well,
know,
yeah.
the wounded
Why is
Padawan.
everybody out after the
he-
Jedi?
Because
like,
the
the wo-
Jedi.
Hold on.
Because they're...
Hold on.
sorry, yeah,
let's,
no, you
let's,
go.
Let's
You go.
take this from a whole different angle. Let's suppose that the Sith are the actual victims in all this, right? And
Yes.
that the Jedis are the oppressive ones, right? And they're
Yeah.
sitting there going and shutting down the Sith, and all the Sith want to do is they want to preach their religion and do their hateful thing and, you know, do that shit. But you got these asshole Jedi who fucked up everything for these Sith Lords, right? You know, because imagine this. Imagine if the Sith, right, weren't always assholes, right? They had a different approach to the Force, using passion and all these things.
Using the emotions that
Yeah.
they're supposed to
Well, I thought
restrict
the
from,
idea
but
was, like,
able to
selflessness
feel
versus
so much
selfishness.
more through there.
Yeah. But
lack
the
of
idea
restriction.
of the Sith is self-empowerment, right?
Yes.
So that necessarily isn't such a bad thing. Like if you ever see a therapist, a lot of times they're going to sit there and ask you, "What are you doing to, you know, spend
that's
time on
different
yourself?"
They just won't make you, you know, get a red stick and start smacking people with it.
Yeah, but
At least if you're a
slaughtering
therapist that does that,
children.
you should
Yeah.
probably see a therapist.
but
But
let's
if you're passionate about other people or whatever, if you're using the Force for passion, but it's selfless, then you're a Jedi.
yeah.
If
right?
you
So
if
it's
you
selfishness
look,
versus selflessness.
well,
It
it
depends
depends
on
on
the Jedi,
how
too.
you look at it, because the Jedi would define that if you are not adhering strictly to their code, that you are not a Jedi.
Yeah.
It is part of the truth of it. They are essentially a righteous religious order, but it does not change that the extremists to their fold can also cause as much of an issue as extremists in the Sith. If you
It's
look
like
at
Catholics
it, if you look
and
at
Protestants.
it, well, and if you look at it at a
Look
core
at the
aspect.
Democrats.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
If you look at it at a core aspect, Jedi are trying to keep themselves calm so that way they logically go at the Force, specifically looking at it as what it is, trying to basically combine themselves with it, intertwine with it, and at its core aspect of what the Force is. Whereas the Sith let the Force be used through them, through their essentially their emotions, their feelings. They
Anger.
become
Hate.
conduits
Jealousy.
Fear.
of the Force and
That's
use
very
that
scary.
power that they
Everybody's
can
scared of
gain
something.
through their emotions and through the passion that they feel for it. And now, if you take it at the core, and if you take the passion from the Sith and the very logical looks from the Jedi, you were to combine those together, you would be neither, but at the same time, your understanding of the Force and your ability to feel for it would be significantly more than either if you were to actually look at it from both sides.
Well,
It's just
that's-
that
I
you
feel like-
you get these splits on each side because the Sith, it is power. It is power overall, and that is why there's the rule of two, which is there's a master and apprentice. That's it. Because there used to be a bunch, they slaughtered each other because they were fighting for power. And what happens when someone wants to say they're the leader? They kind of fight to the death.
Yeah.
And-
But I mean, this is
So what you're
supposedly-
saying is a giant power struggle between a clan of people all wielding lightsabers doesn't end well?
No, especially when they can shoot
like how you call
lightning
it a
from their
clan.
especially when they can shoot lightning from their fingertips and choke people without
Yeah.
having to be within the same room. Vader, we know you did it over an intercom. We know people can do it
Yeah,
that way.
but
Can
I
I-
mean, it makes you
Can
think,
I just
though.
say, once Palpatine got... so Palpatine is fighting off Mace Windu because
Samuel L. Jackson, motherfucker.
just was told
No, it's
by
Samuel motherfucker Jackson.
Anakin that Palpatine is the Sith Lord who's been controlling everything. And it's like, okay, great. Anakin, all you have to do now is nothing. Just do nothing.
And he
Just
fucks
leave
up.
it the fuck alone. And then he's like,
Anakin,
No!
don't do the thing.
I need
The
him!
thing. Because I'm
can't
feeling the
die.
thing. Oh, okay.
All right.
Because then Padme will die in his vision. But if he doesn't stop Windu from killing Palpatine, then Palpatine will never send him to not Ryloth, the lava
Mustafar.
one. Mustafar, thank you. Won't send him to Mustafar to slaughter the Separatists, and then Padme won't follow him there, where he would force choke her and prove to her that he is
It was
using
not her
the dark
finish.
side.
It was exactly.
Socrates isn't here. I have to cover that basis.
Oh, you know, I totally forgot about him choking his wife. Like, come on, dude, really?
Yeah.
Like,
He
killed
kills
all the
all the
children.
younglings.
I know. And it's
Slaughtered
so bad.
children. But when he
Younglings
chokes out his
make them
girlfriend,
sound like
that's where
little
you
baby
draw the line.
animals.
Wait a minute.
I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying
No,
he
wait a
literally
minute.
just slaughtered a bunch of kids right before that happened.
Wait a minute, but this
And then he said,
reinforces
"Don't
my
hide me,
idea
I'm
that,
gonna
like,
save our
Jedi are
babies."
By
terrorists.
slaughtering
By
all the kids. Wait, what?
Killing
Oh,
other
there we go.
people's babies.
Because
Because they give these younglings fucking lightsabers, dude. It's like giving, like, kids in, like, Iraq and shit, like, fucking AK-47s. Think about it.
I think it's a little bit different because
A little bit different.
They
You're
don't
talking
send
about little
these kids-
assholes.
These kids don't get
more like
sent to
giving
do
kids
anything.
wands at Hogwarts.
it's
Yeah,
It's
in
along that line.
Because
It's
you
along
can
that
only
line.
use it
Well,
there.
the Jedi and the Sith are both based off of
Shaolin
Japanese culture and Shaolin monks.
Yeah.
And so when samurai were training, they would start at young childhood, and they didn't start with bladed swords. They started with wooden swords, and very much the same way, the Jedi didn't start with bladed weapons or lightsabers. They would start with wooden swords, and then once you got to be like 8 or 9, then you could have a lightsaber.
So about the age you get a
after you
BB
go
gun.
through the whole ritual of making the
was just like
journey
an
And it's not
to the
working.
planet where the crystals grow, finding your crystal, building a lightsaber hilt to house it, focus the beam, and channel its energies of the Force. So they're not
it's not like they're
just
not just-
given any old lightsaber off
They
the
can't
wall.
Well, no,
It's
they
off
get
the
the
street
the
either.
lightsaber that they get though is the
Okay.
practice lightsaber, right?
Right.
You brought up
Like that Yoda uses, because Yoda has to use a short lightsaber
Mini one.
because
Well,
he's
no,
fucking tiny.
that's actually just a short blade. It's
yeah.
So, real quick, Princess Megatron brought up an interesting thing, like, oh, they're not just grabbing random kids off the street. One of the aspects that pissed me off about Star Wars Episode 1 was the concept of midichlorians. And that being brought
This
up.
was a lot of
Because,
a lot of people.
like,
there was
a lot
no.
of people thought it was a cool idea that, oh, it's something special in the blood that allows them to use the Force, and like that was a thing.
It's not
But
in the
there
blood,
wasn't- there-
technically.
But it's like the
So-
idea behind that. There's these special little cells that allow them to do that. When it's not just, I don't really want to say
But-
like, it's
so-
like a supernatural gift, like, because if the Force is supposed to be this like this
thing
all,
that is in
this all
everyone.
being, yeah,
they
this all
say
being,
the
like,
Force is
everything
in
has it.
everything.
Some are
That's-
just more in tune,
but not
that's kind of the
everything.
No,
idea.
so this is the
concept
point.
of midichlorians
This is the
just pissed
point.
me off.
No, all right. So here, let me break this. There's a lot of people who agree with you on this. The way I understand it is, so the cell is the basic structure that forms the human body, but a cell is not conscious within itself. So you have to have a conglomerate of them in order to make a living organism.
I'm currently in a chat with someone
within-
who's cells right now. Hi, Mel.
Within the cell is the mitochondria, the engine of power that creates,
Mitochondria, the powerhouse
energy.
of the cell.
Yeah, it creates energy the cell uses, but the cell is not alive on its own. The ultimate organism is. So mitochondria or midichlorians are very similar in that
Mel says hi back.
they exist everywhere, and it's like air particles. It gets into everything.
Like sand.
But like sand, but there are only certain people who can channel the energy that is being brought to them by the midichlorians. And then once the
But
midichlorians,
don't they determine how much force you can use by how
the
thick
concentration.
they are in your blood or whatever.
Well, they happen to be in your blood, but they're in all parts of you. It's just like you can test blood easily to find out what concentration it has.
Sure,
So
whatever.
I mean,
midichlorians
Qui-Gon Jinn did it with this
are
little tiny box
more
thing.
intelligent than mitochondria,
Pulled out of nowhere.
and
Like,
so
look at this.
can
Pulled out of nowhere. You know where.
figure out, we're,
right out of his beard.
this person has
Sure, his beard.
the
We'll go
attunement
with that.
to be able to access the power that we are providing. And
It's a
so
kid's show.
we can conglomerate more around this one person and give them more of the ability through having a higher concentration. So it's not an individual entity, the Force. It is more along the lines of a bacterium that cooperates with certain individuals more readily than others. And so if you...
Okay, so here's another thing from the first 3 movies. The prophecy
Yeah.
of the chosen one.
Oh god.
Yeah.
How the fuck did they misinterpret that so badly?
Well,
They
no, they
don't.
didn't, because like he
He
still
actually-
he kills
No, I
Palpatine.
know, but
like
their
he brings balance to the
interpretation of
Force.
it
2 and 2.
was, and they say this at the end of the 3rd movie, the chosen one is supposed to balance the Force and kill all the Sith.
No,
That's
No, I do
that's
not
what
believe
they
they ever.
say at
That's
the
what Obi-Wan
end
says.
Of the 3rd movie.
That's what
their
Obi-Wan says.
interpretation of the prophecy.
well, that's
But
like the same
Obi-Wan saying
interpretation.
something, it
Well,
does not necessarily mean it was the actual prophecy, because
No, I'm not
Obi-Wan's...
saying that.
yeah,
I'm
no,
saying
no.
how did they interpret it so bad?
Well, it's like
wrong?
Jewish people interpreting Moshiach as the Messiah, like Jesus Christ. Like
Well-
there's different
I mean, their
strokes for different
idea
folks.
of
Well,
Force
m-
is-
the,
No, I know.
a good
We
way
get
to
it.
stand
Yeah, I
a good
just
way
like
to stand
Kind of a
behind
long
this
list
is
of
that
dick jokes I've been
they
throughout this entire
anticipate
podcast.
that, at least for the Jedi, because the
We're
Jedi
up to
believe
like
are
14
the
minutes.
imbalance to the Force is the Sith, and that the Jedi are not weighing it to one side, so they believe that the Chosen One would be the one that would bring balance to the Force, not necessarily by killing all the Sith, but by rooting out the influence of the
Sure.
Sith in the galaxy.
They say it.
And the thing is that this is why I am very happy with. I know I've said it a couple times, but very happy with the Clone Wars animated series because they go into depth, into detail about these main plot points, much like they should have done. They left out midichlorians.
Just real
but-
quick, one last thing with
Yep.
with the midichlorians. Apparently, they are endosymbiotes. So, which would be, I'm assuming
Endo
that's the
means
type of cell.
internal.
I'm a
Symbiote.
person who studied
Yeah.
civil engineering, so
means-
unless it involves concrete, I probably
Want to
don't
give me a quick
understand.
definition there, Mel?
So
Symbiote is two organisms that live off of each other, mutually
support each other to survive.
supportive.
Within.
But can I just say
But
one thing real
inside,
quick?
But
Yeah.
because
so like what I was saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
you
like
were-
their mitochondria, but different.
wouldn't
Yeah.
that would just be a piece of the
Mito-
whole.
Called it.
But these
mitochondrial
are actually
bacteria.
like another entity that live within the
something.
body.
Yeah,
Different
but I
mitochondria.
think that it was to the advantage of George
Hey,
Lucas to
Princess
invent
is
the
right.
midichlorians for all the other licensed
About
works of Star
exactly
Wars.
your
Like if you
definition.
think back
Well,
to
yeah, no.
no, if you think back to
Yes,
the Kyle
Mitochondria.
Katarn games, like Mysteries of the Sith and shit like
Yeah,
that.
Dark
Sounds
Forces.
Yeah, those
the
shadow
secret.
troopers are basically dudes that basically get forced into having the Force flow through them.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're just like
they have it.
Yeah.
They have it forced upon them. I know that was bad,
there
but
was
yes,
enough
no.
pain in that one. It
In
wasn't
all
that
seriousness, as annoying as it was to deal with in the first movie, it actually, the whole plot point of midichlorians, it does. The point is to explain things.
Yeah, because-
it
So-
is to increase the knowledge behind how everything works. It's just It's mostly that it's just obnoxious in the movie, not so much that it is a actual bad concept. At least maybe I'll catch flack for that. I don't.
Explained in the movie.
It's not
The fact
explained
that
as
you
If
have
well.
to
you
look
disagree
further
with
into it.
Ryan,
Yes.
go ahead and
Yes.
comment.
You
and
are
tell
more
him
than
how wrong
welcome.
he is.
Roast me at the stake.
Yeah, there's a comment
I
section right
expect
down
that
here if
to
all
be-
you geeks
to
want to
be
get
coming.
in there and start giving us hell.
You know what? Maybe should I get started on the other thing to be burned for? Like burned,
bring that up
burned by
later.
the same. Okay, okay.
So at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, we see Palpatine, who we now know is Darth Sidious, and Vader
Do it.
standing on the bridge
Why
of a
did they
Star
remove the
Destroyer.
ins?
The what?
Insidious, Invader. Why?
I don't know.
That's
Why does it
actually a
make it
pretty
sound
good question.
Like a name?
The idiots?
It doesn't sound like a name. Vader is not a
In-
name.
Make it less
In Maul?
obvious.
Sidious is not.
Mauler?
Yeah, in Maul,
Molly?
obviously.
In Savage.
Yeah, Darth Savage.
Sorry. Savage.
Yeah, Savage.
Tyrant.
Oh yeah.
Count Dooku. Darth Tyrannus.
Darth
Yeah,
Tyrannus.
In
Um,
Darth Tyrannosaurus Rex.
With his
Sorry.
pussy little arms.
I see Dooku.
fight people. My arms are too
Say what you will about
I will fight off all the Sith.
Say what you
Respect
will
the
about
Jedi.
Dooku. He actually was one of the best duelists of his time.
Yes.
And his little curved lightsaber hilt had a lot to do with it, allegedly. There's some YouTube video series where these nerds talk about this shit.
Yeah, no,
Look at the flick of the wrist.
Yeah.
The whole point was the way the hilt is weighted. Because you gotta remember, they have a blade. That blade has no weight.
Yeah.
So, like, all the hand movement, how it sits in the hand is vital to their dexterity and movements with their blades. And he has, and I love his fighting style.
Yeah, it's basically fencing.
Classic fencing.
Yeah.
That's what his fighting style
and
is.
that was actually introduced by Christopher Lee in the role.
Yeah.
Is he was classically trained as a fencer.
Yeah.
And so when they put a lightsaber in his hand, he's like, well, I know what to do with this.
You guys want to see some cool shit?
He can't do the force flips because he's old, but
Well, that's another thing to bring up
CG.
too. Is like
Yoda can
Dooku is
force
actually
Yoda
old
was
as
fucking
fuck.
flipping all over
And
the place
fucking
like a damn
Palpatine
gymnast.
can jump
Yeah, but
like
he's
diagonally.
animated.
Well,
Yeah,
and the other thing
Palpatine, I'm
is,
fairly certain, like, shot through the air, went flying at May's window, to which he was like, holy shit, this guy, ah!
yeah, but like Yoda's also like an autistic savant with the Force. Like it's just
Yeah, he
like
is.
He's also, at that point, like, a couple, like,
So-
he's like,
this
in
gets
his early
to
900s.
Wait,
My-
I have something to say about lightsabers.
Okay.
Like,
Yes?
That we were talking about earlier. I thought it was really cool, and this is interesting because of the weightless thing. thought it was really cool that they train them to fight in pairs.
This is
Not something you can do with a sword because it's too heavy and there's too much momentum and you will cut someone. You can fight back to back.
Like a bitch?
But the way that they train the Jedi to fight is together.
The scene you mentioned it, they're
weaving in and out. It's super cool.
Obi-Wan and Anakin are invading General Grievous's ship, and they run into an elevator, and then the elevator happens to be full of droids, and so they both just flip on their lightsabers and then just start slashing away. But they're literally like as close as Mike and I are, and if
it's not a
if
sword
he and I
fight,
had
you'd
lightsabers,
die.
we'd probably both lose a limb and or our heads.
Yes.
No, man, I'm so confident in my Force abilities. Don't worry about it, BB. I got you covered.
Well, that's the thing, is like they will fight side by side. And they
over and under each other. It's
Yeah.
it's a really cool.
Well,
fighting
the
style that they sort of had to
acrobatics
invent for that kind of weapon.
that go along with their sword fighting, along with not only just evading the attacks from the enemies,
Yeah.
but also making sure that they are not a hindrance to their I will say companion, because with the pairs, it is a person.
Padawan. Or fellow Jedi Knight.
I mean,
depending on-
it shows yet again animated series when they have that one episode where everyone thinks Obi-Wan is dead. Anakin loses it.
Yeah, he does.
It does not matter. These Jedi,
Well,
they have
Anakin
connections,
did not
and
he has
they
too much
they-
attachment.
Betray
but think about it
Obi-Wan
that way
up
in
to
regard
the
to
very,
the
very
fact
end.
that again back to the Force. I mean, just in that one instance in episode 6, when right before the shuttle they get the clearance to go down to Endor, Luke is sitting there. I shouldn't have come. Like, he can sense it. Like, the connection there is so strong. He can sense it, like, immediately. To which Vader's like, "Well, grant him access. I'm gonna get my ass down there." But think
I'm
about
gonna
it
be
that
my
way.
son.
At that very,
I'm gonna be
but it gives
son.
you an all new perspective if you watch the Clone Wars. There, thinking about that last fight, second to last fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
Like, if the connection is like strong enough there, where like Anakin thought like Obi-Wan was dead, and it nearly killed him inside, like, how do you think Obi-Wan felt with Anakin, like having to literally hack him apart because he just saw that any last vestigial of
Humanity?
of hope, of any good that he saw that he could sense,
You were like a
died.
brother
You were
to
like, I
me.
loved you. You were like a brother. You were
But
supposed to
it
be the
actually-
chosen one. That aspect, and it wasn't again until Luke came along
Fuzz cried at that part.
Anakin actually was like,
I'm sorry.
I got
Fuzz.
chills. I did. I got chills.
it's a rough scene to watch if you think about
is.
it. Like,
I wasn't
the
excited.
entire
I would
aspect
say
of that.
I would
Episode
stand
1,
by the defense.
I was mostly on. I was just like, whatever. Pod racing takes way too freaking long. I just.
Are you kidding? The pod racing was the only worthy thing in that
But it had
entire
nothing
movie.
to do with
Exactly.
the plot.
Well, wait
That
a
was the
minute.
thing.
What
It
about
was-
Darth
It was
Maul?
the only cool part.
No,
but it
fuck
had
you.
nothing
Darth
to do
Maul
with
versus
advancing the
Qui-Gon
story.
and
Okay,
fucking
that
Obi-Wan?
was kind of cool because literally,
But again,
Liam Neeson.
too short.
But no, like
They should have shortened the
Darth
pod
Maul
race.
should have gotten a
Extend.
speaking line.
Yeah.
he did.
No,
He did
he's
have
an
one
evil
line.
fuck.
He has one line.
He
What
said
is-
something like "Yes, master." Or something
Yeah, no,
like
I
that.
think
Like,
he
that
says,
was literally
"What-
it, but
what
he
is
said
that bit
he had
of-
like
yeah,
he had like
he has
5
the
words
same
in the
Darth
whole
Maul.
movie
Yes,
that makes him a
master.
character with a speaking role.
That's not a sentence.
So.
Pod racing too
Herb
long.
Dirt.
Episode 2, way too much boring senator
Sand.
stuff.
It was just too much
And
of Anakin
sand.
going up to Padme and being
And-
like,
and the wedding and
Yeah,
blah blah
Army of
blah.
1, 2, and 3.
Third
They
movie,
threw some cool shit in like that.
chills. Just it was a long movie, but I was there with it the whole time.
And there was
Episode
so
3
much to it.
of the prequels,
Oh
definitely.
my god, yeah, we got an hour in and we're
Definitely
like,
the
oh my
best.
God, okay, this movie is like wrapping. Oh my god, there's an hour
Oh,
and a half
why-
left.
they-
Okay,
They
Like, mention
really,
him,
they
like,
really
what
tie
did-
together a lot of the loose ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the first and second, they leave a few that are open to be tied up at a later time.
Yes.
oh, you mean like fucking
Darth
Sith Lord?
Darth
Yeah.
Binks.
This is my personal
Binks.
Darth Binks.
Darth Binks.
Darth-
You mean Kylo Ren?
If they take his mask off and this him, I am
It's not
gonna.
just- I'm walking out of the theater.
I'm
I will
gonna
do
just
that right
kill
now. I will
myself.
walk right out of the fucking theater, and I have good seats. Like, I will walk right out of
I
that
will just
theater.
kill myself right then and there. I'll put a Twitter post up being like, "It's all over, guys. Jar Jar Binks is fucking Kylo Ren. Life sucks."
Misa thinks me finish
Okay,
what
so
you
two
started.
things, 2 things I want to mention real quick. One, somebody had an awesome theory on Kylo Ren, as in they're like jokingly, they're kind of like, not sure if he's just some like obsessive Darth Vader fanboy, or if Kylo Ren does have a special connection to the Skywalker family somewhere along the way, like good friend, or somewhere close. And it wouldn't be necessarily Anakin or Luke. It could also be Leia or respective children, things like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea there. The other thing, we've mentioned him a few times, or at least his ship, General Grievous. We never talked about him when we were talking about people who had the ability to like kill Jedi.
Yes.
I mean, General Grievous
was a
like,
Jedi hunter. That was
he
his thing.
I forgot what
he
his species
steals
is,
their
but
lightsabers too.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell because they,
By the time we meet him,
you
he's
actually
cyborg.
In the animated series, you see
mean
a
not
statue
robot
of what he
Bugman?
looked like as
he had
in his
they
regular
kept chasing
form.
him around, and he kept going to like his very booby trap bunkers.
Well,
and
yeah,
things like that.
but then they
But-
go through the trophy room hallway,
Yeah.
which and you see his transformation through the statues
Yeah,
because first
like
it shows him
various
regular,
losing-
and then it shows him with like one
losing
robotic
body
arm.
parts, things like that. Like he hunted Jedi for God's
But they
sake.
did kind
they
of
fucked him
burn
up.
his heart. Like,
Oh yeah, they cooked him. They
Like-
killed him. They almost killed him. And if it
Such
wasn't for
primitive
the Sith,
weapons.
he would have died.
But wait, this is
far
like
down.
fucking.
no. I just mean like, are you talking about that Grievous?
Oh no, I'm talking about Grievous in regard to we were mentioning like the Mandalorians and things like that. Sorry.
Yes. Sorry.
In which being able to kill Jedi without having the Force abilities,
Yeah.
Grievous was one of the best Jedi hunters.
Yeah.
And in the
Has a
Clone Wars
collection
series,
of lightsabers that he just keeps,
like-
where am I
like,
gonna, who am I
occasionally
gonna stab?
He wants to use them. Occasionally he hits the street corners and he tries to sell them to kids. You know?
Yeah.
What is it?
But this is
there
an
the-
allusion to
there-
Dungeons and Dragons, right? Because Thrycreans would kill elves, right?
Yeah.
And they're these
Yeah.
big ant motherfuckers, and then they eat the elves, dude. Like they're metal as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
But like this is what Grievous reminds me of, right? Is that insect race that goes and kills these special creatures, right? Because Jedi are special creatures.
Yeah.
That's
I will say this. They really showcase Grievous coming into play. What is it? It's not the animated series, but there's the Clone Wars movie, the animated movie.
Oh,
the
one that they was like,
That
hey,
was-
Nickelodeon, or not Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network.
It's a full-length
we're gonna
movie.
throw this at you, and then the TV series spread out after that, right?
Yeah,
I'm fairly certain that it was a Clone Wars movie.
And because it's
Hey,
like
if you guys
it
are
is the
watching and
classic
you know the
style
answer to
2D
that, you
anime.
should comment on the Facebook post.
Yes.
Or here in the chat.
Or in
In
the
the
chat,
chat,
right
yeah.
there on the live stream. Yeah, we've got one of those.
Oh boy.
Like seriously, guys,
both
tell us
sides.
stuff that you want us to talk
Yeah,
about with Star Wars.
and if we're
Or if
wrong
you have
on
a
anything,
comment,
don't forget to
you know?
correct us. Like,
Just saying, it might
This
be
is
kind of
true.
fun to talk to you guys.
only human here.
I'm not remembering what the Bothons are. I
The
don't
the
know.
Bothans are the
Bothans.
ones that have that weird chunky face with like the big eyes. Not Akbar, but the ones that have like the giant
Greedo.
ears. Huh?
No,
No,
they're
not
different.
Greedo?
No, Greedo
That's
is
the-
No, those are
trying to remember the
Greedos
name of
are. Or Greedo is a
Quick.
Rodian. Greedo is a Rodian.
Right.
Type in Bothan right here.
Bothans are the spies in Battlefront.
yeah, and
in
they're like
Battlefront
evil
2.
fucks too.
Yeah, no, they have like a layered face. They have
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
He looks like a dog.
no. That is not.
That is
Nope.
totally. This is Wikipedia.
He looks like a
Is-
tiger
is
dog.
it the Star Wars wiki though?
Yes,
It's
it is.
The
Okay.
star. That's
Weird.
There you go.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh boy,
That's a
Is she standing
very
in a
naked alien chick.
this is what's gonna get all the furries all
Female.
fucking
She's
in
worked up.
pajamas.
That guy got.
Actually
Oh, see,
naked.
go back up. See, the Bothans got taken out by the aliens.
What
Did
alien?
they?
Anyway.
Like
All
from
of
Alien.
them.
So
Burster.
one of the things I want to talk about
Go to the
is
wiki, you'll find
the balance of CG to actual stage usage.
Hashtag
And
Jim Henson.
obviously, the original movies couldn't use any CG because they didn't have that, except the laser shots and the lightsabers, and that was about it. The many Bothans died. Yes. Thank you,
Guys.
Astaroth CY.
Astrothecy.
Astrothacy?
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Astaroth.
Ah,
There's
okay.
another
You said
syllable.
ass.
Put in, hey, dude, put in a pronunciation
Whoa.
like thing, like comment how you would pronounce your username because we're all need to know.
We
all need to know, not we're.
obviously
I can word. I
This
swear.
Tina?
Yeah.
episodes 4, 5, and
Oh,
6,
hey, Tina.
no CG.
Yes.
I miss
They
you.
retrieved the plans for the Death Star.
Episodes 1, 2, and 3,
They also
all the CG.
Yeah, there's way too much
talking to
CG.
Astaroth CY here.
So
they retrieved the plans, but they also got the access. The Bothans were the ones who got the access code.
so they're going to be
for the shuttle
featured
to get
in
the shuttle down to. Oh wait,
they're going to be heavily featured in Rogue One coming out next year. Haha.
Ooh.
wait.
Astaroth. Spider bitch god of hell.
I think
Yeah.
I
And
know
the
who
letter
that is.
CY.
Yeah.
There we
I
go.
think I know who this is.
Yeah. So they're gonna.
Most of
That's
this
gonna
is
be
Spider
in
Bitch God of Hell.
Rogue
I mean,
One. So
do I
that
know
we
you?
have that to look forward for next
Comment.
year. Ha
I'm
ha ha.
curious. I don't want to just go
Um,
shouting your actual name on here, but like, do you know me? As in, did we work together at one point?
Anyway,
At
Like,
your
we're just
mom's
patiently
house.
we'll
We're
get,
like, wait.
we'll get there.
I must
Find out in a
know.
minute.
What was I saying? The
And
thing.
some mocking.
You're yelling about the CG.
Right. So in the end of episode 3, there was a scene where they're in what looks like will become one of the rebel transport ships, and it's got like all the big engines in the back and the little knobby head in the front. And I was like, "Oh my God, they're on a real set! They're on a real set!
Yeah.
Obi-Wan is walking around in an actual set, and there's no green screen behind him."
Nope.
No, it's incredible. I am so excited for this new movie. Like, oh my god.
And I feel like that was
Talk about
something
CG,
that they set up. Something they set up early on is that as much as possible, they're going to be using real sets and a minimal green screen effect, just for like backgrounds and starship spaceness,
Space.
and when there's rocket ships flying around.
But this is J.J. Abrams, so expect tons of lens flare.
Lens flare.
Oh my God.
He actually
Oh,
said that
no,
that's
that-
going to
okay.
be toned down as
The
well
one thing
from
that has me
his
like,
use that was in Star Trek, because obviously Star Trek got a
like,
lot
the
of
lens flare
backlash
is all-
specifically for the
it's
lens
like,
flare.
It's like Star Trek is like patent, like has lens flare patented. The thing that has me almost that got me the most excited when I first watched the trailer, besides the fact that it's going to be another Star Wars movie I'm going to see in theater,
Other than
which is amazing.
Han
But there's so many.
Chewbacca?
There's so much to it that was exciting. But just for some of the visual effects, when the X-wings are flying right there down low to the water, and like
Yeah.
it just like coming, that shot right there was like, oh, shit's about to go down. I want to see what happens there. They showed some of the stuff that the Millennium Falcon like flying all over the damn place.
Yeah.
They had the TIE fighters doing their shit. But that one scene where they're just like locking it, and they're all just coming right in there.
The trailer
Oh
with
my god, that scene was just it
the
looked
most
so
recently
cool.
released trailer where they have it opens with I'm blanking on her name, the chick, the girl with the
How dare you just identify her by her gender?
Yeah, well, she's a girl.
You fucking shitlord.
She's gonna be like one of the main characters in the movie.
Shitlord.
Yeah. Lord Shittius. She's crawling into a crashed Star Destroyer on the desert planet because sand gets everywhere.
Tatooine.
No, it's not Tatooine.
Korriban?
It's not Tatooine?
It is. Yeah, I
Is
believe
it?
it's Korriban.
Is it?
Well, yeah,
Korriban?
because it would make sense because Korriban is like the fucking Sith planet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just. Okay. No, either way.
But it's like the interior of the Star Destroyer seems immense, and they built a large portion of that and then just put in green screen enough so that they could add the background of,
Alright.
Yeah.
more depth.
Just speaking of like the Star Destroyer that's like sticking out of the ground there.
Yeah.
Like I love that one image where they have a picture of the meme of Archer. She's like, "Do you want Jawas? Because that's how you get
Because
Jawas."
that's how you get Jawas.
You just crash the Star Destroyer. Next thing you know, just Jawas all over the fucking place.
Now,
Like,
fellow
"What
nerd
do you
guys, the new guy, the new protagonist in the new Star Wars film. I forget what his name is supposed to be. The black dude.
Calrissian.
Yeah. Well,
Wait,
no.
is he?
That he
is a
is
Calrissian?
confirmed that he is Calrissian.
What?
Yeah, he is Lando's son.
What? But no, what I was
that-
gonna say
okay, like
is, doesn't this borrow from
Alright,
some
that
of the
means his
themes
character has to, like,
of
grow a mustache
Star
at
Wars,
some point in the
Dark
movie.
Forces? Because,
That's just gonna piss me off.
and I only say this because Kyle Katarn used to be a stormtrooper, and then he became a mercenary, and then
Right.
because he was a mercenary, he ended up becoming a Jedi because of dumb shit. So it makes me wonder.
Dumb shit.
It makes me wonder if Kyle Katarn is living bi-curiously through this Calrissian guy.
I think it's definitely possible. I think that's one of the reasons they
Vicariously?
ruled
Do
out.
you mean vicariously?
Vicariously?
No, we're going to just say
He said what he
bi-curious.
meant. I think that's definitely possible because when they ruled out a lot of
Spoilers,
the
Munch. The
content,
movie hasn't come out. We're literally just going off of the teaser trailers. And, it needs to be based on X-Wing Alliance. There was a video game.
so when they ruled out a lot of the original content and the novelizations and everything, and
Yeah, because they
many
totally
of the video
killed
games,
everything that had
I
existed
felt
before.
Yeah,
a large
said
part
no
of that
canon,
was they're
right?
going to retcon the continuity, but with new characters, and then stick it into the new trilogy.
Slam
Because
it in there.
They still need fucking Kyle Katarn, dude. Like, he's a Chuck Norris of Jedi. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, you know that they need this. Like, he's the only Jedi to go around with a fucking whole arsenal and a goddamn lightsaber. Like, who the fuck does that? And he's like the fucking battle master of the New
Everyone in
Republic.
Knights
Like,
of
come
the Old
on.
Republic. Always having the lightsabers with the secondary blaster pistols.
No, his secondary is a
saying.
rocket launcher. He doesn't give a fuck.
Secondary. What the hell is that? It shoots lightsabers.
I want a shotgun that shoots lightsabers. We can call it the pin cushion.
Just ridiculous Star Wars weapons. There's a guy I follow on Instagram who is he has a Wolverine account, and one of the things that he has is a sleeveless set of robes to look like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And where he had his blades for going as Wolverine, he has these little metal things that he sticks on that have blue plexiglass with LED lights in it to make it look like lightsaber Wolverine.
That would actually be very scary to go
by
through.
the way,
this guy's amazing. Like
Your fingers are much less
lightsaber
in
fighting
danger.
concepts that would be significantly cooler to see if they do these with a little bit more of the fighting is the active use of on and off lightsaber fight, in at which some of the moves where it's like.
I'm going to spin around, but I'm going to turn my lightsaber off so I have
that
a
way
smaller
you don't
turning radius.
or
I don't hit somebody behind me.
or
Power
like
struggle moment.
a person is going to like a person puts their sword into blocking position because you're coming down, you shut it off to get past their blade, turn it back on again.
Yeah.
Slice through them.
Or even in a power struggle.
My favorite one is Force Grenade, in at which your lightsaber goes past them and you use the Force to turn it on and pull it to you to hit them from behind.
So it's a reverse lightsaber throw, and we talked about this in as well as the various types of lightsabers, including the lightsaber whip, the black saber in our episode of Star Wars from last year, and the Force throw is a very particular move with the lightsaber where you have to the button on the lightsaber is what keeps the blade on. If you let off the button, the blade retracts. There's no switch where you can click it into one position.
So you'd have to use the Force to keep
You
the
have
button
to
held
hold
down while pulling.
the Force on the button while you're throwing it, so that it stays on when it hits the target. And the reverse would be throwing your lightsaber and then hitting the button as it pulls back. And this is a safety feature designed so that you don't leave your lightsaber on and then it hits the ground and the blade just kind of drops and then it burrows into the center of the planet.
Accidentally, like, sitting down on the wrong side of your pants when you, like, grab a seat. Oh, God, there goes my left cheek.
That's never good.
The equivalent of butt dialing with a lightsaber is not good news for anybody.
But what I mean is that
you accidentally called your
Force-
ex. The other one is you've literally just lost your ass.
But
Or your leg.
one of
or
the
your balls.
times where they kind of show that people
No, I could deal without a leg.
Carotting your anus shut.
easy there. But one of the scenes where they actually show a fight where they use that effectively is if you've watched the opening trailer to Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
the Sith return, when Darth Malgus is introduced as his Padawan, but then he kills his Sith Lord at the end anyway. While one of the Jedi Masters is fighting, he gets tossed a saber staff by his Padawan. So he's fighting as a dual wielding, but one of them is a saber staff. So he's fighting two-handed, and as he blocks one of the final blows, he plants it down, and the Sith Lord who is behind him, he hits the button, turns it on, goes right through the Sith Lord's chest as he turns on
Same
the other half of
capitalization.
the saber staff. That is the style of dynamic fighting I'm hoping to see more of if they bring it into the movie, because they have this ability to bring in this intrigue, because they've already done it, because as they've shown with the Old Republic, which...
And that's why I feel like they ruled out a lot of this as canon,
because
so that they can
have the ability
room
to have room to do with these
to
fights and bring in new people.
Use the same material, just over here, but with a different name on top.
I know, but you know how many of these fucking
maybe a little bit
neckbeards
more
are like
excitement
losing their
behind it.
shit over this. Like there's so many Star Wars
there was
fans.
so much
that,
backlash when
it's almost like
Kylo Ren was first premiered in the trailer with his cross beams lightsaber. And it was like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, but like everybody like in the Twitter sphere is like feeling like Obi-Wan when all those dudes died, and he's like, there was, it's almost like I heard 1,000 or millions of voices all screaming in pain at once, and then they were silent. Like that's basically what was going on in Twitter. Like everybody's like, what the fuck?
And that's why they put it out. Silent. That's why they put it in the first trailers. They're like, okay, people are gonna get bitchy about this, so we'll give it to them early, and then they'll know about it by the time the movie comes out.
I know, but like, see if J.J. Abrams,
and that way they'll have already freaked out and calmed down on the energy when we reveal Jar Jar Binks' Kylo.
Yeah, but I mean, like, here's the thing though, like if
that happened again, if Mike's gonna kill himself,
I think we have to lay out the basis of this now. Yes. So this is not just an unfounded theory. Jar Jar Binks.
What was that?
That's Windows saying hi.
As a Sith Lord is actually a very sound theory if you look at Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. He randomly shows up. Randomly happens to run into the two Jedi who happen to be in his sector.
Sheep in the woods. What do you want?
His frog sheep.
No. May I just say one thing before?
But then he pledges himself to Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, and I just want to say this one thing before you continue. Just remember, with the same thing as when they introduce Yoda.
Yeah.
Yoda comes in, doesn't seem to be too important. You probably know he has a key place, but he acts as this innocuous kind of person, and then it's revealed later. So going in with that same mindset here, continue.
So he's supposedly bumbling. However, within about 10 minutes of meeting him, he's able to do a 20-foot leap into the air and then a double or triple somersault.
Either way,
into a splashless dive.
Yeah, that's completely standing. So this is all him that goes into this jump.
And, okay, maybe that's a Gungan thing, but that doesn't show any of the other Gungans having any kind of dexterity or physical strength to be able to jump in that manner.
You don't really see any other Gungans.
Actually, you do in the animated series, and even then,
and they actually have some with like storylines and like
and even then they don't have that level of dexterity for whatever reason.
Okay,
well, they're kind of a dumb people.
Also, but dumb or not, Jar Jar's the only one that displays this level of athleticism.
Because he's a main character.
Yeah. But why is he a main character?
Because they needed comic relief. If they
they didn't need comic relief. They didn't need it at all.
Okay, but they thought that they did.
Star Wars isn't funny.
Comic relief.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is the actual.
It's the actual thing.
Anyway,
okay, never mind.
So
Did you just
yeah, I did.
Yeah,
let him continue.
So he then is like, okay, you guys need to get to the other side of the planet. The fastest way to do that is to go to my people and get a ship. Except I don't want to go to my people, but I'm going to bring you right there. I was, banished. But I'll take you right there. And then when he shows up, he's like,
his character is an afterthought, not the original design.
Exactly. Yeah, he was supposed to be the mechanism of Darth Sidious that leads Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan to Anakin and then indoctrinates him into the Jedi, only to have him disillusioned and betray them.
I mean, he was supposed to.
So they
this was the
chose the galaxy, the space version of Cajun Man.
Well, before you completely knock it down, why not let it fully be explained? Because as it continues, after getting past the Gungan people, there's now no longer a purpose to keep Jar Jar around
at all.
And yet Jar Jar stays through all three movies.
The point is, doesn't he become a senator?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah, and so how do they make a random guy who apparently has no coordination and no real intelligence displayed suddenly becomes...
Because he's
Okay,
no,
I'm
no,
going to
just-
correct you right there.
let
It
me-
doesn't take any form of coordination or intelligence to become a senator.
But listen, that you do have a point. But
Bernie Sanders would argue with that.
These are the
is
ranks.
true.
It just
that
takes a
Jar
lot of
Jar-
money.
These are some of the ranks
Bernie
that Jar
Sanders would
Jar
argue with
attains
that.
through his career. He becomes Bombad General of the Gungan
Okay,
Army.
do you know what
He
Bombad means?
He becomes a senator in the Republic, and throughout the series, he is actually constantly in close contact with Palpatine, who happened to also come from the same planet as him. All right, and so now continuing, Jar Jar has now joined them. They have gotten to Naboo. They're now rescuing the people
right.
from droid
So-
custody in the city, dropping from the
There's
balcony.
the balcony scene where the Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Jar Jar Binks.
standing up on the balcony, looking at the moon and wishing that her Romeo would come. Oh, different balcony scene.
A little bit. And so it's
I'm not
from
English majors.
From
left to right, from the perspective of the Jedi looking down at the droids. You have Jar Jar Binks, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon both leap up onto the balcony and then jump down and start engaging. And Jar Jar jumps up onto the balcony and then changes his mind mid-leap, turns around and catches onto it, and so he's hanging on. And then the next shot, you see him drop down on the far right of the camera, which is not a position he could have landed in if he had simply let go of the balcony.
Yes.
He would have force jumped up and over to the other side, and this is proved by
Is that like a
watching
double jump in
the
Mario?
droid
This
shoot
just
at
sounds
where
like
he
such
was.
a conspiracy
and then
fan
watch
theory.
his head.
That's all I'm saying.
This is
But
like
if you actively pay attention to the scene, one of the droids that is walking right up to Qui-Gon, but he's not focused on Qui-Gon at all. He's shooting at the position where Jar Jar is supposedly dropping from. You see him shoot, and then you see his head solidly follow up into the air and land right where Jar Jar lands in that shot, solidly over.
And then he gets
a
cut in half.
jump. A jump that is also done before in the series by Luke Skywalker over the Sarlacc
Right.
pit when he vaults off the board from being pushed in. The same style of jump because Jar Jar lands exactly with his hands onto the edge of the balcony in the same position that Luke does when he does the vault off the diving board. And now the reason that this can equally be backed up is not only from that jump, but as things continue, he has this coordination that this dumb luck, and that's what makes Jar Jar so.
And
one of the hated things is his
Obi-Wan
dumb
is quoted
luck.
as saying, "There's no such thing as luck."
Yes,
Which is funny because
which-
the basis for all 6 movies is on dumb luck.
and what
Or
it
is it?
And this
No,
is the
it's
thing.
based on Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar,
apparently.
in one of the battles, has a blaster rifle strapped to his foot.
No,
Like,
it's-
it's caught
so-
on his foot.
He's there's a droid hanging onto his pant leg.
Yes,
And the droid is, in the other hand, holding onto the blaster. And so
Yes.
he's kicking the droid body around,
Which is
and the
so-
blaster just happens to be shooting everybody in the head as he's kicking it.
incredibly lucky or very well aimed.
Hey man, these
For a
Sith Lords,
person-
they're very good at masking the fact that they're Sith Lords. I mean, like, look how long
Palpatine,
Yeah.
invisible through the entire seas. And
Also, Jar Jar was instrumental in implementing the
New World
legislature to begin the war and use the clones in the first place. And he's addressing the Senate, and he's using his Force persuasion.
Jar Jar is Kylo Ren. And Max gonna kill
well,
himself.
in this, it might seem a
Shit.
little bit ridiculous, but one of the things that Jar Jar does in all the scenes where he gains these titles, where he becomes, now regardless of what the word means,
Bombad
when he
General.
becomes Bombad
Right.
General,
It's
Bombad is
Gungan
kind
form
of-
superb. The reason
Yes.
I say this is there's a video game, Star Wars Bombad or Star Wars Super Bombad Racing. It's literally Star Wars Super Superb Racing.
yeah.
And that just pissed me off. So anyway,
But
Like-
it's an
yeah.
amazing game.
Like
It's great.
ATM
All the
machine?
characters ride on their ships and they all have massive heads.
Like ATM machine? pisses you off like ATM machine?
Yeah, it does.
But as it is,
Panda.
whenever he is talking to these important figureheads, when he's talking to Padme about this bill going through for the war, about talking to, I forget who the leader of the Gungans is when he becomes
Boss Nass.
Boss Nass, and when he's talking to the Senate, every Jedi, when they use Force persuasion, does a little bit of a hand trick. It's meant to be directing the Force at the people. When Jar Jar is addressing these people, every single scene you'll see him. He's doing these wild hand motions, either directed at the person.
Wait, is this in the animated series?
No, this is in the movies.
In the
This is in the movies.
This is
Were
continuity.
you watching his hands?
Yeah, and then
When did he talk to the Senate?
You don't
when he
remember?
addresses the Senate about making the Galactic Empire
I don't think
and
that
going to
not
war.
the
Or
Empire,
not,
using
the
the
war, the war.
clones.
Yeah, the clones to war.
against the
And he addresses the Senate by
separatists.
waving his hands at all the senators. And now, yes, it
And
is.
this is the other thing
a big
is
theory.
Senator Palpatine on a regular basis before he becomes Chancellor Palpatine, and even then, he has kind of opened the Senate's mind to Force persuasion, and so he can kind of shift their decisions
That's all I'm saying.
one way or the other.
One, whatever. They have. I don't really buy it. But two, the rest of the movie is so bad. Why would they put so much effort into making this one part super detailed and intense when the rest of the movie just
Because the
fucking
whole
sucks?
point is to set up in the first movie. When they introduce Yoda, they do it in a single movie. The idea behind it is the concept. Yes, this is a theory.
Yeah.
It is a theory. Remember, it is a theory.
It's not been proved one way or the other.
But set up Jar Jar in the first. You think he's nothing for the first and second, and imagine the jaw drop scene. If Jar Jar wasn't hated. Imagine a jaw drop scene if Jar Jar turns out to
be the one who kidnapped Palpatine in the end.
Yes.
And so in the opening move of Revenge of the Sith, you see Jar Jar walk out instead of Dooku.
Yeah.
And then he fights Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah. And because also scenes with Anakin as a child, speaking with Jar Jar. Now they aren't as
because there's no
big
good
lines.
explanation for Palpatine to want to spend a lot of time with this young kid. But Jar Jar, as an unimportant person, he can spend all the time he wants to with a 10-year-old
And
boy.
I didn't want to
Jar
say it.
Jar
Thank you,
always
Mike.
tosses out a joke about the Jedi, with talking to Anakin. Also addresses how beautiful Padme is.
So you're saying
kind of.
Jar Jar's gonna show up in episode 7?
It's very possible.
The actor who played Jar Jar,
The voice.
the voice for Jar Jar, addressed that.
Not the Gungan?
But addressed that with the seventh movie, he directly addressed it's nice to see loose ends tied up. They have shots on set of Gungan mask models, Gungan body models, so clearly
Well, it's interesting. Fuzz and I were talking about this earlier.
there is the potential for Jar Jar to be addressed in the seventh movie. Also, you got to remember, they spent how much money on this? $4 billion, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you think they're going to cut out $2 billion of basically of what they spent? Because if you consider the 3 sets to be cut into halves,
Right.
$2 billion of what they spent, you think they're just going to cut it out? You think they're going to cut out a character that managed to survive 3 movies and make his way into the animated series as well,
Right.
where they address his powers more? Also, by the way, in the animated series, he's about to be eaten by an underwater creature, and then literally 30 seconds later, that creature is obeying his commands. A force power, which is known to be had by the Jedi, called... basically, they use the
It's
force
like,
to control animals.
Animal
Jar
husbandry
Jar
kind of deal.
No,
Jar
animal
Jar
husbandry is
potentially
jerking
could
off
have
horses.
taken
Or
control
not
of the
the-
animal through the Force.
Unfortunately,
What's the thing?
It does involve that.
Yeah, and so
You would know.
Okay,
and,
so
and then just
Mind
the
control
final
animals
the
or
final thing
jerking
is
off
this:
horses?
one of
Jerking
the
horses
final
off.
times when you see Jar Jar walking with
I hate
Palpatine
college.
is one of the final scenes with Jar Jar walking with Palpatine is you see Palpatine walking away after he's kind of like won. You know, he's going to the war is going. He's going to become emperor and everything. He has his group of baddies walking with him.
Yeah.
Everyone else you know is a baddie. Except there's one person that sticks out in that group, and that is Jar Jar. Jar Jar is at the head of that group, and not just at the head of the group following Palpatine. He is literally at Palpatine's left hand in that final scene. And whether or not you want to read into it, whether or not you like the character and just wish he was dead and gone forever, there is a lot of pointers to Jar Jar being this bigger character than is intended. Jar Jar's acceptance after the first movie was the worst thing in the movie's existence. Everyone hated Jar Jar. And so that basically killed any attempt at trying to make Jar Jar a villain, because you aren't going to make a main villain out of a character that everyone has now despised.
See, I think it would have been even more powerful if they had kept him in, because then everybody hated him from the beginning, and then it turns out, there was good reason for that.
well, even then, but as Fuzz, you were saying earlier, like they didn't need the comic relief for it. So by putting him in a role that had that kind of comic relief aspect to it, that I think if they put him in there as a more solid character that had,
but there was
some
a precedent
serious,
for comic relief.
They had
R2-D2
they had a
and
bit of a
C-3PO
precedent.
are the comic
Right.
relief.
But
So
why
why
not
you
keep
need-
the two Stooges,
you don't need
the
to-
dynamic duo there? Why did you have to add this one character that's basically Adam Sandler's
Because
Cajun Man
it's-
from SNL, but with less ability to speak?
C-3PO hadn't been built yet, and R2-D2 wasn't a character yet.
But
The Gungans are from New Orleans. That's like
They have
they're
C-3PO
from
in the
bayou
first
of
one.
That area. Like,
He's
that
there.
is-
He
that
just
is
doesn't
the
have his
Gungans.
gold plating.
But-
All right. Well,
actual
we
people-
have run the course of our hour here.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we went
it's-
over it.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars. There's so
This
much
is the
more I wanted
first.
to jack-
This
like-
is just the
And,
first
and we
episode.
will be back to do
Thank you
more
guys for
it.
watching.
That's
We
right.
really
Awesome.
appreciate you tuning into the live stream, or if you're watching the recording or listening to us as well. Be sure to tune in next week for more of our Star Wars discussion. We're going to be talking about the second trilogy, being episodes 4, 5, and 6, going back to the 70s and the 80s, and also how we're going to see Luke in the 7th movies, and and then we're going to transition to just flat out all talk about the 7th movie for the end of our Star Wars month here. So thanks again for tuning in to Blurcast. We will see you guys next time.
Bye.